Hello, my lovely ladies. I wanted to jump in here today and just let you know some of the questions I'm being asked, and then we're going to dive into how we can upgrade our nervous system or to at least understand it and some simple shifts that we can take, and that will help to answer some of the questions that I get here. So, Tanya, I want to write a book, but when I start writing one page, I just stop. Why? Tanya, I want to lose weight, but every night after dinner, when I tell myself I'm going to stop snacking, I keep eating. Why? Tanya, I don't like my job. It's burning me out. I'm feeling a lot of anxiety. I want to leave, but I can't, and I don't know why. Tanya, I want to start my own business, but every time I think about it, I just freeze and I cannot move forward. Why? And one more, Tanya, I want to stop drinking so much alcohol. I make promises to myself that I don't seem to be keeping. Why do I keep doing this? So these are just some of the questions through conversations that have come up. And I wanted to share a little bit about the nervous system. I'm not going to do a deep dive into the nervous system, like the technical part. I'm going to talk more about the story part of it. But there are many reasons why we self-sabotage, right? So remember that we are collecting a lot of tools and skills in this menopausal Made Easy podcast that I share with you. And I've also been putting them on my YouTube page under what's called Live Your Vibrant Life. So I have been thinking about, oh gosh, I should rename my podcast because a lot of people are saying I'm not in menopause, but I really like your information. And I'll just explain something. When you decide to do something, sometimes they tell you to niche, okay, and whoever they are. But so when I started my podcast, I asked my peeps, not my business peeps, but just people on social media and my friends, should I call my podcast Vibrant Living with Tanya, which is my business name, or Menopause Made Easy? And they're like, oh my gosh, you have to call it Menopause Made Easy. And I really like this title because it really pertains to women 35 years old until they die. But there's a lot of misunderstanding about menopause. So people really don't understand the perimenopausal part, which I didn't understand because I didn't really know it until I went through it. So they're not thinking at 35 roughly that they're entering perimenopause. And so a lot of people think that it's just when they're getting close to not having their period anymore, which is still called perimenopause. I did episode number 2, check it out, on the difference between perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. So, and then I'll have older people say to me, well, I'm not in menopause anymore, so your podcast doesn't pertain to me. But you actually are in menopause, it's just that you're postmenopausal. So I'm not going to change the name of my podcast because I like it, and it really does address women 35 years and older. But what I have decided to do is I'm going to put some of my episodes on my YouTube channel under Live Your Vibrant Life. Because what I am sharing with you today, and what I share with a lot of you in my podcast episodes, is really how do you live your most vibrant life? Right? And so when people are asking me these questions, they are stuck. They want to write a book, but they can't. They want to lose weight, but they can't. They don't like their job, but they just feel like they can't, do something else. They want to start a business, but they can't. They want to stop drinking, but they can't. Or maybe not drinking so much or eating so much. And I'm like, why am I hitting this wall? So it really doesn't matter what age you are, this information will pertain to you. So let's just hold up your hands. And I want you to think about, in your left hand, you have a half of a cup. Okay, you have a half of a cup. Actually, let's make it a quarter of a cup. You have a quarter of a cup in your left hand, and in your right hand, you have a full cup. Okay, so you have a quarter cup in your left hand, a full cup in your right hand. Okay, so this we're going to call your capacity or your vessel. And if you take running water, so you take these measuring cups, you can picture this in your head, and you walk over to your tap, you turn on your tap, start to run the water, and you put your left hand underneath with a quarter cup, you fill it up to the quarter cup, and it starts to overflow. Okay? Then you put your right hand underneath, and it takes longer to fill up. There's more water that can go in there, and then you get to a full cup, and it begins to overflow. So this is the simplest way that I have been able to really feel this within my own body, is that I am a measuring cup, and I can only handle as much as my measuring cup will hold. So are you sitting at a tablespoon, a quarter cup, a full cup, a half cup, 3 gallons? What is the size of your vessel? What is the capacity for you to handle things that are coming your way? And so I'm hearing a lot of people, and myself included in this, until I really understood and embraced and started to practice this and get curious, is why am I not doing certain things? Like, what is stopping me? It's not willpower, right? I've done like a 3-episode series on willpower. What else is there? And so I started to do a deeper dive into the nervous system, and I can break down again what the nervous system is, but I'm not going to talk about that in this episode. Okay. The other thing that we need to be aware of, which I see a lot with women that come to me wanting to lose weight, and I also see this with myself when it comes to my business or the changes that I want to make. And that is that we're often times trying to go from that quarter cup vessel, that capacity of a quarter cup, to 4 gallons. And we're thinking that we can just go from a quarter of a cup to 4 gallons in one go. And it's too much. And so we shut down and we get overwhelmed. So we need some skills and some tools for a quarter teaspoon, a half teaspoon, a teaspoon, right? So that we can use those stepping stones, use those simple shifts to get from one capacity to another capacity. And there's lots of different things you can use. Okay. And I've done an episode, I believe it's number 38, on how rolling changed my life. Because before I rolled, I would say, let's just use this term, I was at a quarter cup. I could only handle a quarter cup of life. Okay. When I started to roll, I actually relaxed, calmed down, and I actually increased the size of my capacity. So say I was at a half of a cup. All right. And so that is one tool that completely changed my life. And I've done lots of episodes on fascia. I had Deanna Henson on here with blocking and nervous system. So I've talked about that a lot in the past. But I just had this, when I was explaining this to my kids the other day, they're like, oh man, that really makes sense, Mom. Like, I can visualize the water filling up the cups. And now we realize that there's nothing wrong with us. It's not a lack of willpower. We're not a failure. We can't compare ourselves to other people because they may have more or less of a capacity to hold, right? So what we have to do is think about, where are you right now? What's the size of your vessel, right? And I mean, you can put an imaginary number on there if that helps you, or a cup size, right? And then if you want to start being able to handle more, how do you increase the size of your vessel? How do you have more capacity to be able to move into a new job, start writing your book, start to address your overeating, start to address your drinking issues? What is the next step? And again, I think this is really important, is that the next step is not 20 steps from now, which is what I did so often with my eating journey. Is like, on Monday, I'm never having sugar again. That's like going from a quarter cup to a gas tank full. it was just, I couldn't handle it. So it never happened. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm such a loser. What's the matter with me? Instead of realizing that I needed to increase my capacity. And one of the things, like I said, was rolling. As soon as I started rolling, I started to increase my capacity. And I cannot tell you how many things have changed. So you can go back and you can listen to, episode, I think 38, where I talk about rolling changed my life. You can go back, I think it's episode 68 or 69 with my interview with Deanna. And then there's lots of other things, episodes in my podcast dealing with that. So one example is that in 2020, my Move Your Body studio was shut down overnight. Okay, nothing to do with me, but rather with world circumstances. And unbeknownst to me at the time, I did not realize what a shock to my system this was. Actually, I actually did realize because I had basically just had a 15-year business that I had built up, ripped out from underneath me. And then all my income was gone. My passion was gone. My purpose was gone. My entire world was gone. And so well, not my entire world, but that part of my world was gone. So I'm sure you can relate, and maybe not, but that had a traumatic imprint on me. And my body went into a freeze response. Okay. Now, like many people, especially as an entrepreneur, I've had to pivot many, many, many times in my life. But usually the pivots before were because they were my choice, not a worldly event. And so I pivoted quickly. I moved online. I had tried to move online actually in 2017 and nobody wanted to do that. But so I had everything. I had my laptop, my lights, my Zoom. I was ready to go, quickly transitioned and carried on with my business, but not in the same fashion, obviously. It was over Zoom. I took a massive pay increase or decrease. And I am so grateful for everybody who joined me on that adventure. And I'm still doing it. I still teach live on Zoom 4 times a week. I have my Vibrant Living Academy and I'm still running many, many programs. So I'm very grateful that I was able to do that. But a part of me got buried deep within me and froze to protect me. And I have been wanting to reach out for years to the people that were in my Move Your Body studio, who some of them I have still not seen, and I had spent years and years with them. And I wanted to let them know what I was doing because we had communicated with each other. Like some people came to my classes 3 times a week, sometimes twice, sometimes once. And some of them had been there like for 14 years. So I had a relationship. We always had hugs, like we were intertwined in our lives. And this event happened and we all went our separate ways. And my body froze. And like I said, I was trying to write this email for a long, long time. And I was like, I would sit down at the keyboard. I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. What's the matter with me? What's the matter with me? There was nothing the matter with me. I was stuck in a freeze response in my body that was put in place, unbeknownst to me, to protect me from, I'm not sure what, but it was there. Sometimes it doesn't have to make sense. And life just carried on. But I kept thinking about it and I kept thinking about it. And then just this week, actually, it was the end of last week. You're not going to hear this till July, but this was in May. Sorry, this happened in May. I'm walking Boudica in the park and I meet up with 2 of my former Move Your Body studio participants, and nothing happens accidentally. Everything happens for a reason. Anyway, during that time, we caught up, we discussed, we talked about the grandkids and the kids and the dogs and what we've been doing and all that kind of stuff. And I mentioned to them that I have been in this freeze response and that I have really been trying to connect with them, but every time I go to do it, I shut down. And I have been thinking about this, so I said to them, but I'm beginning to thaw and I'm coming out of this. And then I immediately went home, I wrote the email, I sent it out to my list, and bada bing. So this fear, this threat that had been staring me in the face dissolved. And I know part of why that is because I have been doing a lot of nervous system work. In fact, I have well, it'll be over by then, but I have a lunch and learn. So every month I'm doing a free lunch and learn class. You are welcome to attend. We talk about different subjects. And I've also been talking a lot about nervous system resetting and upgrading in our midlife reboot on our weekly coaching calls. So anyway, I feel so much better. I feel so much better. I had created such a big event. And that's what happens a lot of the time when we are trying to do something, it's too big for us. Our nervous system cannot cope with it. So we have to come up with strategies in regards to increasing our nervous system capacity, but you might not even realize that you need to do that. And that this is why it's so important, from all the other things I've been listening to as well, where community comes into play. And it's important to surround yourself with people that are going to educate and empower and lift you up with these kind of things. And one of the lessons that we talked about in I'm thinking about May, because this is when I'm doing this with my mover or my midlife reboot ladies, is that you are not aware of what you're not aware of until somebody makes you aware of it, right? And if you are always with the same people and you're in your bubble, which there's nothing wrong with, but you're not expanding per se unless somebody brings something new in, right? And that's the benefit of me being a coach and working with people, is that I literally spend a lot of time looking at new tools and skills and how to make them come into your life so that it's not a struggle, but that you find your flow. So actually I have another client who, it's just fascinating. I was speaking with her earlier this week, and she's losing weight and she's doing things differently, but she's not depriving herself. She's not restricting herself. And I said to her, isn't it amazing just the simple little tweaks that we're doing that are so simple? It's crazy, everybody, and the results that she's getting without struggling. But she had no awareness of any of this beforehand. And then if you listen to my podcast on your reticular activating system, when you become aware of something that you didn't even think existed, when you bring it into your awareness, you start to see it all around you. And she's like, how could I not see all of this? It's because we can't see everything. We can only see what we're choosing to spend or what we're focusing on. And unless somebody brings something else into your focus, into your attention, into your awareness, you're not going to be aware of it. So this is why it's really important to feed your brain with information that is going to lift you up and inspire and inspire you, not put you into fight, flight, freeze, fear, which unfortunately is a lot of what's happening out there, because you're much easier to manipulate when you are afraid. So when you are in a community, okay, whatever that community is, and this is why there's so much power in my midlife reboot community, is that we are talking about these things. We're talking about how do we upgrade our nervous system? How do we upgrade our menopausal plate? How do we bring more movement into our day that's going to support us as we move forward? And what happens is that we have something in us called mirror neurons. And when you see it happening, you think it's happening to you. That's the easiest way to explain it. right? And so what happens is that it gives us confidence, and our nervous system begins to see what's possible, and we start to feel less threatened. So that's just one simple way that we've been, upgrading our nervous system, is that we are in this collective in my group, and we're all doing this together, and we're seeing that it is possible. All right, so for the next little while, I just want you to focus on, can you feel the freeze response? Can you feel that anxiety? Focus on what it is that you want to do. What is it that you really don't want to do? And are you doing it from your authentic being? Do you want to do something for your authentic being, not your ego, not because somebody else says you should, but for you? Okay. And are you living that authentic being? And again, maybe you don't even know what that is. I don't know, because I'm not speaking to you face to face. I'm just kind of, putting it out there in the wave world. But just asking yourself and becoming curious. And then, do you need some support? Do you need some accountability? And what I'm calling this is a quantum leap to vibrancy, that we move faster and further and feel more safety when we are in community, when we are surrounded by the people who want to, I don't want to say get better, because I have to honestly tell you, I'm living like my dream life. I've really set my life up. I work for myself, which I've done for so many years. I, make an income from doing this so I can contribute to my family. I have time freedom. I travel. I get to spend time with my kids. I'm doing a podcast. Like, I am so grateful. I cannot tell you the gratitude. And I wasn't always like this, that I wake up every day and I just thank, the Lord above for my health, my vibrancy, for the health of my children, my family, my friends. I thank, the Lord for this beautiful earth that He has allowed me to be a part of, and the grace, and I wake up and I'm just like, I'm here another day, and I get to shine my light, and I get to receive people's light, and I'm just so happy. So it's not that I want to get better because I'm lacking anything. It's that I have the curiosity to grow and expand. And I think there's a big difference, right? I don't need anything. Like, my ego doesn't really need anything. Well, sometimes maybe there's a little bit in there. Because listen, we always like to be praised. At least I do. But I've gotten over so much of that because I truly know that I am living my best. I'm living authentically. And so when I say about getting better, I don't mean I want to get better because there's something wrong with me. I'm just saying that I feel expansive. So I hope that that helps, like that growingness, gosh, when I think about where I came from, so much darkness and shame and guilt and eating and suppression and victim mentality and sickness. And I'm saying that this is from like pain to purpose. I've moved on so many different levels of pain into my purpose. If I hadn't have gone through that eating disorder, I could not speak with such passion, compassion for helping other people move through their eating disorders. Whether that is nighttime snacking or overeating or suppression. I'm not a qualified therapist, so I'm not going to deal with somebody who has, real horrible anorexia or bulimia. But for any woman who is just eating because they don't know how to deal with their feelings, or drinking, or nighttime eating and they want to stop or lose weight, like that's part of my wheelhouse in there. So I know that I can help you have a quantum leap to vibrancy and move faster because I've spent 30 years doing it. And now I have accumulated all these skills and tools that I can now share with you, and we can implement them and move you in the right direction. So, there's so many shiny stars out there. There's so many squirrels. There's so many ways to get distracted. And it's incredibly challenging sometimes to be laser focused instead of going, oh, I should do what they're doing. I should do what they're doing. And this is why, if you are feeling called to do it today and you're just like, oh my God, I am just tired of the overwhelm. I'm tired of knowing that there's something inside me that I just want to move through and out and shine more of my light just for myself, for others, whatever it is, that you can reach out to me. We can set up a complimentary chat and at least start to peel back some of the layers of the onion so that you have hope and you have direction and you have a plan. And then if you decide to work with me or join my program or go off by yourself, that's totally your call. But at least this would be a brilliant nervous system upgrade step to go from your quarter cup and add a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons. That would nudge you along. And if you feel afraid, and if you feel that you're trying to talk, your part of your body's trying to talk you out of it, it's completely normal. That's completely normal. And knowing that should just give you that extra burst of, I'm scared, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay. So can I tell you how many things that I've been scared about, but did anyway, like starting my own business in my 20s, moving to New York, to live with my boyfriend, letting go of a very successful business that I had built up over the years, writing a book, having children, moving multiple times. There's so many things that I've done where I'm like, oh gosh, this could this could go one of many ways. And I'm sure you have those in your life as well, right? And maybe like me, you're finding there's some things that you just feel too stuck on to move forward. And so if it's in the wheelhouse of, your health, your well-being, I help women with career change who want to move into the entrepreneurial space, not corporate space, because I don't have any experience with that, but I have a lot of experience with being an entrepreneur. Then start the conversation and let's have a chat. So the next time you are going after something you want, that you feel in your bones and you feel yourself self-sabotaging yourself, right? You want to start writing, but something just stopped you. You want to look at your drinking habit, but something is like you're feeling the fear and your ego. Remember your ego, it's doing its job. The part of you that is called the ego is keeping you safe. It's keeping you in the familiar hell, okay, instead of the unfamiliar peace, heaven, whatever you want to call it, okay? That is its job. And when you understand that, you can say, there is a part of me that is really terrified to do this, but there's also a part of me that really wants to step out. You can say to your ego, hey, ego, I hear you. Thank you for protecting me. I get it, but I'm really wanting to take this next step and I'm going to do it. And even if I'm afraid, I'm going to do it anyway. Okay. So it's not that you're a loser. It's not that you don't lack willpower, or sorry, that you don't lack willpower. That's actually a double negative. It's not that you lack willpower. It's not that you're a failure. It's not all those things I used to tell myself. Don't keep asking yourself, why do I keep doing this? Right? Just listen to your ego, make friends with your ego, right? Whether that's wanting to stop nighttime eating, drinking, start a new career, whatever it is, listen to that part of you, because there's all different parts of you talking. It's just that the noise on that fear part has been really loud. And you have not given it permission to just hear it and then be like, I hear you, and I'm going to turn the volume down a little bit so I can turn the volume up on my courage button, and I'm going to take it a step forward. Okay? So curiosity is a huge part of up-leveling your nervous system. Okay, what am I feeling right now? Where do I feel it in my body? What are my thoughts saying to me? And could I speak kinder to myself in these moments? Could I have more compassion for myself instead of beating myself up? Right? And so I know this cycle of beratement and shame and guilt and disgust and fear, because I lived there for so long. It's so draining. It's so draining. It's so dark. It's so lonely. You may have some buddies where you're in the loneliness cycle together, but I didn't want to stay there any longer. And if you are ready to break out and shine your light and see what your next adventure is, then by all means, let's connect. So I want to leave you with one tip here. And actually, I'm going to leave you with two things. I want to leave you with something that I did. Okay, yeah, 2 ways to upgrade your nervous system. Sorry, my brain's doing a little jigger. Is that one thing is forgiveness. Okay, so forgiving others is very powerful, but I just want to talk about forgiving yourself for a moment, because a lot of the times when I'm forgiving other people, I also have to forgive myself for my part in it and what happened. And so here's an example. That in my 20s, I was in a relationship that really wasn't very good, and I knew it from the start, but I couldn't get out of it. It was like a bad drug. And oh my gosh, I was with this guy, I don't know, probably 3 years, which was 2 years and 50 weeks too long. And I was in it because I lacked self-confidence, I lacked self-esteem, and he provided me with some sense of security and a level of support. And oh my gosh, did I ever learn a lot about myself, okay? And I needed some of those lessons, which I didn't know I needed at the time, but I granted myself forgiveness for now understanding, not just now, I've been doing this work for a long time, but I'm sharing this example with you today, that I forgive myself for being that 20-year-old who didn't know better. I forgive myself for putting up with things that I was too afraid to voice my opinion. And I am grateful that I am able to see these lessons, right? So the lessons I learned is that when I started my next relationship, which actually ended up being with my husband, I knew those lessons, and I had a voice, and I had more self-confidence, and I had more self-esteem, and it gave me the strength and courage to ask for what I wanted in the relationship. And it also gave me the strength and courage to ask for what I wanted, and if it wasn't the right person, that I knew eventually I would find the right person. I was not going to settle for less than I deserved, because that's what I had been doing. Unfortunately, it took me many years to figure that out, but sometimes that happens. So I have forgiven myself because I learned some of those lessons. I understand it. There was nothing wrong with me. I needed to go through it, and it brought me some clarity. So that is my first tip, is that if there is something that you need to forgive yourself for, understand that that was you at that age, and there was lessons to learn, and that you can dig into that experience and take those lessons and move forward with them. The second tip, which will be the last one of the day, is something called havening. So I've mentioned many of my in my product. I'm getting tired here speaking. I've been speaking for many hours, doing interviews and stuff like that, coaching calls. Is that your brain, you have your prefrontal cortex and your amygdala. And your prefrontal cortex is your adult brain. So I've done many podcast episodes on this. And your amygdala is your child brain. It's the brain, I want it now. Okay. It also can get stuck in fear. And our brains right now have this evolutionary mismatch. So our brains are like 10,000 years old. Okay. There's a lot of irrational things going on in our brain. So we see this fear and our body thinks a tiger is chasing us. Okay. So if, for example, you want to write a book, all right, and every time you go to write a book, you freeze and your body is thinking that a tiger is chasing you. So all you do is, it may be called, like, it's called a butterfly hug, havening, this kind of thing. I'm going to do it right now. So do it along with me as long as you're not driving. And you're just going to rub your arms up and down. So cross your arms and then just rub your bicep, your upper arm area. Oh gosh. Oh, and already I can just feel that vibration throughout my whole body. Okay, now you can keep going or stop. I'm going to keep going while I'm doing this. Now, what happens is that your body goes, your brain, your nervous system, your frequency, what your energy, whatever inside of you goes, oh my gosh, how can she be running away from a tiger and be loving herself at the same time? Like, how does this happen? And it doesn't have to make sense to you. That's okay. But what's happening is that your nervous system is going, oh my gosh, she is safe. She is safe. She is safe. Now, you may not get the action you want at that moment, but just like with my rolling, within 2 weeks, I was a different person. I was so much calmer and relaxed, and my voice even dropped a little bit. And I had more empathy and less judgment. And I felt more open, expansive. It was incredible. So, just by rubbing your arms, what you're signaling is that you are safe. And then what happens is you start to disconnect in your body that tiger chasing you. And over time, that connection will no longer exist. So when you feel yourself freezing up, or in fear, don't fight the urge to give yourself a hug. Okay. Lean into that. You may notice that there's some resistance because you're so addicted to that fear, to that overwhelm, to that freeze, that it can even feel crazy just to hug yourself and rub your arms up and down and maybe even tell yourself you love yourself. Okay. But just dive in. That would be like a teaspoon. This is a little teaspoon step for you, right? And so rub up and down, and that subconscious level is going to go, she's safe. She's safe. She's hugging herself. She's not running from a tiger. She's safe. She can take the next step. She can move through a little bit of overwhelm. She can get out of this freeze response, right? And so this is just one teeny tiny tool that I teach in my midlife reboot program that we practice and then we bring our brain on board, and it allows our nervous system to know that we're safe. And then that opens up another door, and that opens up another door, and you add another teaspoon and another tablespoon and then a quarter cup. And then before you know it, you've written a chapter, or you didn't eat 2 nights this week, or you had a little less wine, right? Or you start being curious about, what other jobs could I do? What would it look like to be an entrepreneur? And you can start asking yourself these questions. So ladies, thank you for our time together. And please, if this resonated with you, please share this with somebody in your life. It really helps if you like, subscribe, and share and comment on my podcast, because it's little old me sitting in my office, and the social media world does not favor little people. So I ask from my heart to yours, if you would please share this podcast, subscribe, like, And if you can put a comment, especially on Apple Podcasts, I really hear that helps so that what I have to share gets out to those that need it. So I thank you from my heart to yours. Have a beautiful day, evening, morning, whenever you're listening to this. May your light shine brighter. And if you want to reach out, my contact information, my email is in the show notes. You can set up a complimentary session with me to see what your next step is. You can join my midlife reboot program. You can check out Vibrant Living Academy. I have lots of different entry points financially, time-wise, some free that you can join me. You can see a link in there for my lunch and learns that I do. And thank you. Mwah. Healthy hugs, everybody.